this morning, President Trump is expected to welcome UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer to his Turnberry golf course in Scotland, and the pair are set to discuss everything from trade to a ceasefire deal in Gaza.
Madeline Rivera joins us live from Washington with the very latest. Maddie.
Good morning, Carly and Todd. This comes as British Prime Minister Keir Starmer convenes a cabinet meeting to address the crisis in Gaza. Starmer is expected to try and persuade Trump to resume ceasefire talks after the U.S. and Israel pulled their negotiating teams. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff cited Hamas's lack of desire to reach a ceasefire, but Starmer is pushing for a resolution as reports of starvation in Gaza escalate. The Israeli military is now implementing a tactical pause to allow for the delivery of aid. Here's President Trump addressing the situation and the hostages in Gaza.
When you get it down to a certain number, you're not going to be able to make a deal with Hamas, because once they give them up, then they feel that that's going to be the end of them. Israel's going to have to make a decision. I know what I do, but I don't think it's appropriate that I say, but Israel's going to have to make a decision.
Trade is expected to be another main topic. The U.S. reached a trade agreement with the European Union that would impose a 15% tariff rate on goods. As part of the deal, the EU will buy $750 billion worth of energy from the U.S. on top of investing $600 billion more in America.
I think everybody's going to be happy with this. The Prime Minister of the UK, while he's not involved in this, will be very happy because, there's a certain unity that's been brought there too. We have a separate deal with them, but I think he's going to be very happy to know.
The president says the EU also agreed to buy military equipment from the U.S. Carly and Todd.
All right, Madeline Rivera live for us in Washington. Maddie, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, rocking and rolling this morning. President Trump wrapping up a very long press conference just seconds ago. It just is the way that it is. We'll play the tail end of it for you here in just a moment, and some of the major highlights. President Trump is meeting with Keir Starmer. Yeah, that's a real name, I guess. He is the Prime Minister of England. Today is Monday, July 28th, 2025. Did the FBI raid Mar-a-Lago in order to steal back the Russiagate files? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've been talking about this for a long time, but we're going to lay out the entire framework of it today on the program. Very important, big tease from the CIA Director John Ratcliffe about prosecuting Hillary Clinton for all of this. Hillary Clinton, of course, did work with a foreign government in order to rig the election. It's a matter of fact. Were they trying to keep that from the American people? Totally, they were. Ladies and gentlemen, we just roasted Eric Swalwell as well, who was putting up weight that I think my wife could bench press, trying to make a point. Well, this is our obligation. We'll play that clip for you, along with having two members of Congress, great members of Congress, patriots, Brandon Gill and Greg Steube, join the program today. My name is Benny Johnson, and this is The Benny Show. Lock and load as we load up this Donald Trump press conference. A lot of news being made, everything from Epstein to trade deals to censorship in England, and we'll play you some of those clips in just a moment. Again, it just wrapped. We've been going right to it live off the top, but, you can never plan these things. You never really know when they're going to be live, but President Trump just finished with Keir Starmer. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are looking for a way to keep, perhaps, some of your most precious assets away from, let's say, thieves on the internet, government censors, since Donald Trump is in the UK and since they are censoring and literally jailing people for memes, yeah, maybe if you're in the UK, you'd want to share those memes with your family on a secure network. That's where Bunker comes in. Bunker is there to help your family and their future, protect them from cyber criminals. This is something that obviously is incredibly important because cybercrime is the fastest growing crime on earth. The developers of Bunker have put together an app with 25 years of experience in catching cybercriminals, prosecuting cybercriminals, fighting cybercrime. Bunker is how you protect your family and share securely in private messages. You can also safeguard, like kind of a digital vault, wedding photos, baby pictures, special memories, financial information, IDs, birth certificates, and passports, tax documents, wills, trusts, and insurance. Bunker.life/Benny is where you can sign up today. Use the code Benny for 25% off your family plan. BUNKR.life/Benny. Use the code Benny for 25% off the family plan today. All right, ladies and gentlemen, why don't we pop on over President Trump, Keir Starmer. Let's listen in. President Trump just wrapped with the Prime Minister, and I want to just get the tail end of the commentary here as Donald Trump was taking questions live for, it started about an hour ago, and it was like a back and forth conversation. Here's what it kind of looked like. It's a very interesting little like round table here in the UK. President Trump will be with King Charles, I believe, tonight. Is that correct, ALX? It's going to be interesting. Let's listen. And we have Stephen Miller sitting there at the president's flank.
But we've made a lot of deals in the last couple of months. And then ultimately, as you might as well know, we're going to just, because we have, you have 200 countries, more. But people don't know that. You got a lot of countries. And I wouldn't want to sit down with 200 people and have to deal the way he was calling me all the time. We want this, we got to have that. These are tough negotiators. These are, look, they're smart people, are tough negotiators. They know what they want. And, but we're going to be setting a tariff for essentially the rest of the world. And that's what they're going to pay if they want to do business in the United States. Because you can't sit down and make 200 deals. But we've made the big ones. We just finished Indonesia. They opened up their country. We just finished Japan. They opened up their country. Japan opened up the country. They were totally closed. They opened up to our cars, even to rice. Rice was a big deal. They would never take anybody else's rice. They're taking rice. But they opened up their country. Philippines, we just finished. They opened up their country. They were very closed. I'd love to see China open up their country. So we're dealing with China right now as we speak. Yeah, we're dealing with China right now.
There's Carolyn Levitt, Stephen Miller, ambassador to the UK. There.
No, look, we have a very special relationship with this country. Like, my mother was born here. And not only born here, loved it.
It's interesting. I didn't actually know that.
Religiously every year. And she'd go up to Stornoway and see her relatives. But she loved the country. Yeah, that probably it always has an impact. Always has an impact. But, Germany has a new leader, and I think he's terrific. I think you like him too.
Yeah,
I think he's terrific. My father was born in Germany. Or his parents said, we're just out. But, so, you have a lot of feeling for this part of the world. I do. I want to see this part of the world do well. Germany, Scotland, UK. I want this part of the world to do well. All of the nations. You do feel a certain, you have a warm feeling toward a part when your parents are born essentially here. And I think maybe it's slightly different. Maybe it's not. I don't know. But maybe it's slightly different.
Mr. President, President completely rule out a pardon for Ghislaine Maxwell who landed. Is that something you would ever consider?
Okay, and then here we go to the Ghislaine Maxwell stuff. All right, so this was I was trying to get toward the tail end here, but that's okay. Cut. Let's go straight to the Ghislaine Maxwell questions because now that's given us enough time. I want our producers to have the time to actually clip and get it locked in. I want to play this full questions on Epstein and Maxwell's, obviously something that this audience has cared a lot about. President Trump was asked a number of them. Klein, we ready to rock? Right here. The one that Alex sent, please. Yeah, okay. So again, when these things just wrap, we need to take like a minute to load and lock the clips. It did literally just end when we went the second that I hit the screen. And so here we are, ladies and gentlemen, with Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. This is the full slate of questions that President Trump was asked. And then we're going to jump into some of the remarkable subterfuge that happened this weekend. We did a number of phone calls. We're like 20 for 20 on establishing what's happening next in these investigations. And we have some new information for you, ladies and gentlemen. But since the federal government, and we missed this on Friday's show because it hadn't happened yet, since the federal government has given limited immunity to Ghislaine Maxwell, that limited immunity is going to allow Ghislaine Maxwell to talk about crimes. The reason you give immunity to somebody is if they're cooperating with you, if they're able to discuss crimes that they don't want to be charged for. She was also speaking about 100 different individuals, and on the exact same day, President Trump turned a heel and said, "Yo, you just gotta be understanding what Clinton's done at this place." Now, this is President Trump back in form. President Trump in form is pointing the Epstein dagger directly back at the people who actually committed the crimes there and not getting a dark cloud over his administration. His administration did nothing. It was obviously the Bush administration that gave Epstein the pass the first time, and it was subsequent administrations and presidents that like to hang out with Epstein even after his sex offense charges. Kevin Spacey, of course, famously saying that he got him Epstein's jet with Bill Clinton and a bunch of teeny little girls. Okay, well, ladies and gentlemen, the Trump administration was the first administration to ever reach out to Ghislaine Maxwell, to have a conversation with Ghislaine Maxwell, what she knows that went on for 20 hours in Tallahassee over Thursday and Friday. Ghislaine Maxwell was seen walking in and out with mysterious boxes. Nobody knows what that was exactly. And then we hear that she was granted immunity to talk about 100 different suspects, I guess you could say, key individuals in the Epstein saga. And apparently she spilled her guts, according to her lawyer, with that immunity, meaning she won't get charged if she's giving up bigger criminals. As we've said many times and many times and many times, Ghislaine Maxwell is not an innocent party here. According to all available evidence, she is a monster. And she was the chief facilitator of the Epstein operation. However, she is the key to everything, as she was witness, I would believe, and a core element to so much of what was going on inside of the Epstein orbit. And so in order to get to the bottom of it, you got to talk to her. And we're totally in favor of the way that the Trump administration is approaching this. We hope to see more and soon. Here's President Trump being asked about this moments ago in London.
Said that you have not been briefed on the Epstein files, or your name has not appeared in the Epstein files. But doesn't the AG have to tell you if your name is...
Well, I haven't been overly interested in it. You know, it's a hoax that's been built up way beyond proportion. I can say this: those files were run by the worst scum on earth. They were run by Comey. They were run by Garland. They were run by Biden and all of the people that actually ran the government, including the auto pen. Those files were run for 4 years by those people. If they had anything, I assume they would have released it. The whole thing is a hoax. They ran the files. I was running against somebody that ran the files. If they had something, they would have released. Now, they can easily put something in the files that's a phony. Like, as an example, Christopher Steele, a person you know well, happens to be from your country. But Christopher Steele, as an example, wrote a book, a dossier. We call it the fake news dossier. And the whole thing was a fake. The whole thing was a fake. They can put things in the file that are fake. But those files were run by bad, sick people. If they had anything, why didn't they use it when I was killing Joe, and then he gave out because he was 25 points down, and then I got somebody new. Nobody even knew anything about it. She was a horrible vice president. She was a border czar, but she never went to the border. She never once called a border patrol agent to find out how we're doing, but she was the border czar. Her name was Kamala. Nobody knows her last name. It was Harris, but nobody knew her last name. So I ended up, how would you like to end up in a race where you're killing somebody, you're beating him, and then they say, all right, we'll take him out. He's not working. Let's put somebody else. And then she had a 6-week honeymoon. It was amazing. They predicted she would have a 6-week honeymoon, and she did. And then she got slaughtered. But think of it. Those files were run by these people. They were run by my enemy. If there was anything in there, they would have used them. for the election. Yeah.
Do you think that drawing, I think I heard you say something the other day, that the drawing that was the subject of the Wall Street Journal report.
I don't do drawings. I'm not a drawing person. I don't do drawings. Sometimes people say, would you draw a building? And I'll draw 4 lines and a little roof, for a charity stuff. But I'm not a drawing person. I don't do drawings of women, that I can tell you. They say there's a drawing of a woman, and I don't do drawings of women. And also, Epstein was always a very controversial guy. I was at a very high position, pretty much all my life. In all fairness, I've been doing this for a long time. I had the top show on television. I had the #1 bestsellers. I had everything, right? And I was a very successful business guy. He was a very controversial. Who would do a controversial drawing? Now, with that being said, they say there were many letters done by many people, and many big people, big successful people. But I just don't. When you talk about files, I just keep going back, and other people too. Even the enemy says this thing is not correct, because if we had it, we would have used it on the guy. It's a bad issue. They say it's a good issue for Trump. Do you know that my poll numbers are up 4.5 points since this ridiculous Epstein stuff? My poll numbers have gone up 4.5 points because people don't buy it. Okay, people don't buy it. And he's gone, and we want to focus on trade deals. I want to focus on the deal we just made with the European Union, which is the biggest trade deal in history. It's the biggest deal, I think, in history, not just trade deal. So if they would have had something, they would have used it.
And people keep writing stories like the time he threw him out of Mar-a-Lago. Can you settle that? What was it about? What caused the breach for him?
That's such old history. Very easy to explain, but I don't want to waste your time by explaining it. But for years, I wouldn't talk to Jeffrey Epstein. I wouldn't talk because he did something that was inappropriate. He hired help. And I said, don't ever do that again. He stole people that worked for me. I said, don't ever do that again. He did it again. And I threw him out of the place, persona non grata. I threw him out, and that was it. I'm glad I did, if you want to know the truth. And by the way, I never went to the island, and Bill Clinton went there supposedly.
There you go.
28 times.
There you go.
I never went to the island, but Larry Summers, I hear, went there. He was the head of Harvard. And many other people that are very big people. Nobody ever talks about them. I never had the privilege of going to his island, and I did turn it down, but a lot of people in Palm Beach were invited to his island. In one of my very good moments, I turned it down. I didn't want to go to his island.
There you go. Okay, this is Donald Trump in form. Donald Trump in the form that got him elected the first time is the president who calls out the elite pederasts. He does it to their faces. He did it to start off his campaign. We played the clips 1 million times. And we've also played you the clips of Kevin Spacey saying there were little girls on that plane with Bill Clinton. Has anybody ever asked a question of Bill Clinton about this? Has anybody ever tried to charge Bill Clinton for this? Has he ever been brought in for an interview? I mean, here's like an Oscar-winning actor who's world famous talking about Bill Clinton on the plane with little girls. No, nobody's ever done that. President Trump needs to obviously turn all of the energy about it because they got nothing. They got nothing else. They got nothing else. I'll prove it to you in just a second. They got nothing else to throw at Trump. So they're going to try this wrap-up smear, very sad wrap-up smear. And you can see it in the desperation of some of the content. Like content we couldn't help but troll this morning. Eric Swalwell is somebody who had sex with a Chinese spy. Now, we have the Swalwell video, right? Do we have the Swalwell video? Boys. All right, I'll give you a second to get it. Eric Swalwell had sex with a Chinese spy. Eric Swalwell is somebody who then went on to use that Chinese spy for fundraising in his congressional campaign. He literally put Chinese yuan into his bank account. The money was being used in order to facilitate his campaign and his victory in the election. This is all a matter of public record. Pull up the Axios article, please. This has all been reported. There's nothing even salacious about this. I guess you could assume more, and you could assume worse things. And I guess your assumptions would be correct, because what we've learned is that actually there was staff placed in Eric Swalwell's office via Fang Fang, the Chinese spy. Now, the Chinese spy fled the country when she was caught. Nothing ever happened to Eric Swalwell. He currently serves on the Foreign Affairs Committee. And ladies and gentlemen, this individual decided to bench press what absolutely Marjorie Taylor Greene or my wife could bench press. Maybe we'll have to do a video proving that. It's about 135 pounds. Any teenager could do that. Any teenage male could do this. If you are an adult male and you're posting a video of like a flex, and he does try and flex here, he does like go out of his way to talk about pumping iron. If you're posting a video of you pushing 135 pounds, 2 plates, again, most women at the gym could do this. You're an adult man and you're proud of yourself. You really should be truly ashamed. This is embarrassing. But he posted it because their self-introspection and shame is something that is impossible to find on the other side. And so, ladies and gentlemen, here's the video. Here's Eric Swalwell talking about having, using the Epstein vector to attack Trump while he's doing his little estrogen pushes here. Let's go.
I should be working right now. I should be at the Capitol. I should be in a suit. Instead, Republicans sent us home because they would rather stand up for Donald Trump than release the Epstein files and stand up for victims. We could be at Washington, D.C., lowering your healthcare costs, lowering your grocery costs, and restoring your rights. I should be working right now. Instead, I'm pumping iron at the gym.
No, dude, you're not pumping iron, you're a pussy. And the fact that you think that this is what men do at the gym and that somehow this is going to attract men to the Democrat Party, it's just a series of massive backfires. The opposite. I decided to record my own video. You can see Eric Swalwell obviously using the Epstein vector to attack Trump. This is why we need Trump to go on offense on this issue and to go directly at Democrats who are guilty for unspeakable crimes with Epstein. But Eric Swalwell himself is guilty of unspeakable crimes. He's never been punished for them. So we decided to make our own video this morning and posted. Here's my version.
Well, had sex with a Chinese spy.
You need to start from the beginning, please.
Eric Swalwell had sex with a Chinese spy. Her name was Fang Fang. She fundraised for his campaign and donated money to him. Then she fled the country when she was found out. She even placed staff in Eric Swalwell's office, but nothing ever happened to Eric Swalwell. Then Eric Swalwell crapped himself on live TV.
Did that the president used taxpayer dollars to ask the Ukrainians to help him cheat an election.
That's Eric Swalwell.
He did. Client load and flip, please. So this is something that obviously is worth fighting back on. And we've been trying to fight back on this point for a very long time. One, this is something, I'm not saying that I'm a bodybuilder. I'm just trying to stay in shape for my age. I'm pushing 40 at this point in my life. This is 265 right here. I think this is what men my age should, like healthy men my age, should be pushing. Nor this is the first time I've ever posted fitness content, and I've only done it in order to troll very doughy, very strange, beta male Eric Swalwell, who I have a particular animus towards because he did crap himself on live TV and slept with a Chinese spy. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is us just fighting back in the culture wars. Thank you very much, and we hope it goes viral. It already is. The point about all this is that you have to fight back, right? You have to keep pushing. And I'm sick of this. I'm sick of the Epstein issue being used as a dark cloud around the Trump administration. And we've been doing our level-headed best to expose who the true villains are here. And President Trump hitting Clinton, again, is going to help in releasing sort of the venom from this issue. It's something that has to be done. Can't continue like this. Clearly, the direction needs to be full disclosures, full answers. Ghislaine Maxwell testifying. She has a subpoena coming from Congress. And we'll see. We'll see. The reports are that the Clintons are very upset that the Democrat Party has made this their new cause celeb. I think it's going to backfire, and it's going to backfire horribly. Thankfully, President Trump is already pushing that. Now, President Trump also in England pushing for less censorship, finding out live that his own social media site is being censored in the UK, the United Kingdom, of course, with the Magna Carta, with the sort of foundations of free speech and our own founding documents. Obviously, many of these principles taken from some of the greatest British philosophers on human rights. And so it's very sad to see the state of the United Kingdom right now. The United Kingdom does lock up people for memes. Here's GB News. This is Great Britain News informing Donald Trump on live TV that Keir Starmer has new powers to censor his own social media platform, Truth Social. Keir Starmer has said multiple times, we're not censoring anyone, but quote Shakespeare, the lady doth protest too much. Here's this moment.
Mr. President, you have a successful social media site. There are new powers here to censor your site, state-mandated powers.
To censor my site?
To censor your site and Twitter
Truth?
and Facebook.
Truth?
I mean Truth. Is that okay?
Well, I don't think he's going to censor my site because I say only good things. Will you please uncensor my site?
Yeah, we're not censoring anyone. We've got some measures which are there to protect children, in particular from sites like suicide sites. We've had too many cases in the United Kingdom of young children taking their own lives, and when you look through their social media, they've been accessing sites which talk about suicide and encouraging, if you like, children down that road, and that is what we want to stop. It's nothing about censoring free speech.
But that treats all adults like children.
This country is the proud.
But that can treat all adults like children.
Free speech in this country has been for a very long time. We're very, very proud of it.
Keir Starmer also obviously very touchy on this issue, something that J.D. Vance has punched the Europeans in the balls over right here in the entry to this press conference. Donald Trump saying, yeah, you guys are censoring free speech in this country? That's bad. Let's listen.
Importance of free speech today.
Well, free speech is very important. I don't know if you're referring to any place in particular. Perhaps they are, but
we've had free speech for a very, very long time here, so we're very proud about that.
Again, the lady doth protest too much. I'm no Shakespearean scholar, nor am I familiar with all of the richer philosophies around where the Magna Carta, John Locke, Adam Smith, and so on. But the founding of our country is very much predicated upon English philosophers, and they have had their histories and legacies desecrated by a modern English state that attacks and persecutes the English people against their will for patriotism in their country. England is an absolute mess. Sure be wonderful in my lifetime to see it righted. Ladies and gentlemen, it'd be nice to see some other major crimes in our nation righted, as we have learned this past weekend that something remarkable happened. One, the CIA director said on air that perhaps it's Hillary Clinton who belongs in prison. That's a wild new take on this. His name's John Ratcliffe, and he doesn't speak out of turn, and he's a very careful man. And here he is on Maria Bartiromo saying, yeah, it's time potentially to look at Hillary Clinton as the chief villain here, something we've been talking about quite a while. Here we go.
So what I think I hear you saying is there is still an opportunity for indictments, potential prosecutions, accountability from those people who may have lied under oath, like John Brennan, James Comey, and perhaps Hillary Clinton.
Well, that's why I've made the referrals that I have. D&I Gabbard has made referrals.
Yeah.
And why we're going to continue to share the intelligence that would support the ability of our Department of Justice to make bring fair and just claims against those who have perpetrated this hoax against the American people and this stain on our country.
Director, one other question on this. Tulsi, as well as President Trump, used the word treason. Is there a statute of limitations on treason?
Well, Maria, what I would say is this, is there is no doubt in my mind that the people that we just talked about conspired. They conspired against President Trump. They conspired against the American people. And so I'll leave it to Pam Bondi and our Department of Justice, Kash Patel and our FBI to investigate the conspiracy to do what and what charges that they're capable of bringing. But again, I don't think statute of limitations are going to impact, because in a conspiracy, Maria, the statute of limitation doesn't start to run until the last act in furtherance of that conspiracy. And Maria, part of why this is so important is the people behind this are still furthering the conspiracy. They're refusing to admit or acknowledge what they did in 2016 and what they did in 2020 was wrong. And so I think that's why this is so important and why I'm excited about what the American people will see very shortly and what's to continue to come.
So just an important reminder here that the reason why the raid of Mar-a-Lago happened was to hunt down Russiagate documents that have now been released. Devin Nunes, of course, the author of the Nunes memo and the person who hired Kash Patel in order to establish the fact basis for what Russiagate actually was, has said this, and he said this for years. Kash Patel has said this for years on our program. Devin Nunes out again, saying you must understand the FBI raided Mar-a-Lago to search for the Russiagate files. Now, why are the Russiagate files so damning? Because Hillary Clinton, as you just heard, the director of the CIA there, suggests that she go to prison for what she did. Well, what did she do? There's a lot of really complicated web of messy networks and acronyms and so on, and all these players and all these foreign names. It's very simple. Hillary Clinton authorized payments to Russian spies to write fake opposition research on her opponent, Donald Trump. And then she used that. She laundered that. She sent her high-powered lawyers into the FBI, into the DOJ, into the CIA in order to plant that information. It was absolute subterfuge. It was every definition of a traitorous conspiracy, seditious conspiracy. I mean, that's how you charge treason. You charge treason when you work with another country to take down your nation. That's what treason is. That's what Benedict Arnold is. FBI raided Mar-a-Lago in search for the Russiagate files. What was so damning in these files? Well, now they've been released, and now we know. An important victory lap for our show is Kash Patel on the program years ago. This would be in 2023. Explaining that there was a missing CIA binder where they housed and hoarded all this evidence, and they wouldn't dare let the American people see it. President Trump declassified it on his way out of office, and Trump took it and said, this is my right as president. I maintain my security clearance, highest possible level of security clearance. These are my files. I'm taking them. Kash Patel explaining that's why Trump was raided. Here we go.
Does seem like there is like full scale panic. A lot of buttons being hit right now. One of those buttons is a binder went missing of CIA material. This binder was locked inside of a safe, which was locked inside of another safe called a turducken, I guess. You would probably know more about that than I, but these alarm bells went off, and we did a whole show yesterday on it about, wait a second, so the CIA is losing these binders of Russian intelligence information. That sounds like what Kash told us nigh on 18 months ago when he was in studio. And sure enough, you said they have all of this information exonerating Donald Trump in the Russiagate ordeal, hoax, and the government is sitting on it. They won't allow it to be made public. And now suddenly those binders go missing. What's going on, Kash?
It is the ultimate government con job. Nobody lost that binder. The Russians and the Iranians didn't break into the Central Intelligence Agency, then break into a SCIF, then break into a safe, and then secretly escape with the materials so they could blame Donald Trump for missing documents. The CIA knows exactly where that binder is. So does the Department of Justice. But their grundoons in the media are like, how do we turn this on Donald Trump? Because it actually exonerates Donald Trump. So what do? We make it look as if Donald Trump stole the binder, which is completely preposterous. They actually know that. And oh, by the way, there's an email from the Department of Justice to the National Archives that says the binder has been returned. Thank you for giving it to us.
Here's the CBS News article at the time. This is all building up to something very important Dan Bongino talked about this weekend. Documents from binder with intelligence on Russian election interference went missing at the end of Trump's term. Well. What was in this? This is what they were publishing here in 2023. This was as a predicate for the raid on Mar-a-Lago. Again, they raided President Trump's house in order to get the information that is now being disclosed to the public. Materials from the binder containing highly sensitive intelligence related to Russia's interference in the 2016 presidential election went missing at the end of the Trump administration and have not been recovered, two sources familiar with the matter say. The material included raw intelligence and risks revealing sources and methods. Whenever you hear sources and methods, this audience is so smart. Whenever you hear sources and methods, it's a cover-up. Whenever you hear sources and methods, they're lying to you. Whenever you hear sources and methods, there's something they're trying to keep from you. It was such a concern to U.S. intelligence officials that members of the U.S. Intel Committee were briefed on it last year. Well, Donald Trump has every right, of course, to have this information, and he declassified it on his way out the door, and then they were able to stop him from sharing it with the American people. Margot Cleveland, a spectacular reporter, says that Devin Nunes, again, suggests that the raid on Mar-a-Lago was to find something, as well as keep Trump from winning the election. What was that something? It was the just released House Select Committee report, which would make sense as it was supposed to be held at the CIA. Looks like we've actually run it down now. This created a huge risk of everything being exposed. Remember, the CIA refused to allow the House Special Committee report on Russiagate to be released. Instead, they kept it under lock and key. President Trump took it to Mar-a-Lago, and they raided him with guns drawn in order to get it back. Now we're able to see that report. You can see, obviously, the breakdown of findings here inside of the report. And you can see the report declassified here by Tulsi Gabbard. It's a really, really messy report, but here are some of the major takeaways. And this is why they needed to keep it under lock and key. This is, again, findings from the House Special Select Committee. We'll have two House members joining us live soon in order to talk about it. Usually it's by Gabbard. The highlights below: Comey's fingerprints all over everything, Obama ordering the assessment, having absolutely no predicate to launch a Russiagate assessment, having no data or any facts that Russia helped President Trump, and more importantly, a lot of fact patterns that Russia was there to help Hillary Clinton. Whistleblowers being silenced, Clapper and Brennan coming in over the top, shutting up all of the analysts and the experts. So much of this housed that President Trump, imagine it's amazing. Like, the resilience and the stoicism of President Trump. I know, I get it. Like, he uses naughty words online here and there, and he said they don't know what the F they're doing. Is Donald Trump really stoic? Imagine having this kind of information, this damning information that would destroy and decimate all of your enemies, and holding on to it for years, not mentioning it because it was currently classified. Imagine going up against Joe Biden on Ambien and not just absolutely taking a baseball bat to him on the debate stage. President Trump, he just can read a room really well. And he's waiting for the exact right time. And this is the exact right time for this bombshell. Dan Bongino popping off this weekend in a post that went more viral than any post on X. A post that now has 47,000 reposts, 230,000 likes, and 20 million views. Dan Bongino says, Kash Patel and I are committed to stamping out public corruption and political weaponization of both law enforcement and intelligence operations. Pay attention to that last part. It's very important. It'll come in handy later. It's a priority for us, but what I've learned in the course of the properly predicated and necessary investigations into these aforementioned matters has shocked me down to my very core. We cannot run a republic like this. I'll never be the same after learning what I've learned. My goodness. What is Dan Bongino learning? Well, it was left to us to guess when we recorded on this on Saturday, and our guess was correct. We saw intelligence operations and weaponized federal law enforcement and the ability to turn intel communities and law enforcement on your political enemy. Boom. Dan Bongino is talking about the strike force that is here investigating Obamagate. And he's talking about all the classified information. We have direct sources in the intelligence community that tell us that what we have seen is just scratching the surface, the very, very tip of the iceberg. Dan Bongino works inside of a classified SCIF. Dan Bongino works in an environment where he's able to see all of the documents, and here he is telling us what he's seeing. We cannot run a republic like this, so this is threatening to the actual republic itself, and what I've learned, I'll never be the same after learning. Dan Bongino is not like we know Dan. He's been a mentor to me. He's been a mentor to this show. I consider him a friend. He's not one for like over-emotional, estrogen-charged, limp-wristed words. He's not a pansy. He's not somebody who's trying to be a little bitch on these things. When he says that it shocked him to his core and I will never be the same, then expect that Dan Bongino is handling weaponized uranium-235 nuclear-grade bombshell material. And that we haven't seen it because the vast majority of the Russiagate documents remain classified. My prediction is what this will show, because Dan Bongino gave us just a clue. He posted this link as a quote tweet to this. So he took this viral tweet. This is the most viral tweet on X this weekend. Dan Bongino explaining the Russiagate documents he's working through, and then he quote tweeted it with a link. And what that link exposed, and this is a really long and rich report. We can't get into all of it right now. It's probably 7,000 words on just the news. I encourage you to go read it. We'll have it in the show notes. Ladies and gentlemen, what Dan Bongino linked to was effectively a massive report. Again, 7,000 word report with original sources, direct sources speaking on the record, describing the actual relationship between Russia and the Republican Party and the Democrat Party, and how it's the exact opposite of what was put forward from the intel community. This report, there's no like sizzling bombshells, right, that you don't already know or haven't already established. But what this extensive report details, and this is what Dan Bongino linked to as a sort of a teaser as to what he's talking about here, what this report establishes is that the intelligence community assessment on Donald Trump and Russia is the opposite of the truth. It's just the opposite. It's nothing is real in it. The Russians actually wanted Hillary to win. Russian spies helped Hillary win. Everything you know is a lie. Everything you've seen in the modern American media landscape for the last 10 years has been a lie perpetrated by Comey and Brennan and Clapper at the direction of Barack Obama, and covered up by some members of the Trump administration, by Mike Pompeo. Mike Pompeo is a very evil element in all of this. There's a reason why Tucker went so hard at Pompeo. And this is what Dan Bongino has linked out to, saying everything is false. It's all fake. You've been lied to. It's all the fundamental lie of the last 10 years of American politics is false. Completely. And Dan Bongino is saying that our country will fall if we are still allowed to weaponize the intel communities like this against our political opponent. And that they're going to fix it. Let's finish up here, and then we'll head to our first guest. This is bombshell stuff. We're going to conduct these righteous and proper investigations by the book in accordance with the law, and we're going to get to the answers we all deserve. I can promise you an honest and dignified effort at the truth. Not my truth, not your truth, the truth. Perfect. Thank you. God bless America and those who defend her. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Very interesting things happening. Hillary Clinton being named as somebody who is a target of this investigation. Some of the old school people coming back and talking about the Mar-a-Lago raid and what it was all about. And most importantly, our show our show being right for years. Go back in 2023 and show you the clips of us talking about this and nailing it. And now those people are in charge. Bongino on the show, Kash Patel on the show. Now they're in charge. This has been the way station for this scandal, in large part for the last few years. And we're proud of our work on it, and we're looking forward to action. Somebody who's all action in Congress is Representative Brandon Gill. He joins us from Texas. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back, Congressman Gill. Congressman, what makes a scandal here? A scandal is that people actually suffer and get punished for it. Otherwise, it's just headlines and clickbait, and it's just, nonsense. And I guess we like to say on the show all the time that Democrats put Republicans in jail for non-crimes, and with a mountain of evidence, Republicans refuse to put a single Democrat in jail. What say you about some of these more smoldering pieces of evidence as it pertains to Obamagate? Congressman? All right, ladies and gentlemen, Congressman's off, and we apologize, ladies and gentlemen. The producers have been working with the Congressman for quite a while, and unfortunately frozen. This is too bad, but we're fans of Brandon Gill. We hope he's able to rejoin. All right, ladies and gentlemen, moving on to something I was hoping that we'd get a chance to play. This is Devin Nunes, who is speaking on the Mar-a-Lago raid this past weekend, talking about, no, this is exactly what all of the weaponization was over. This is why they raided President Trump. Here we go.
But probably the biggest thing that still needs to be researched and the information needs to be put out to the American public. I'm not sure if the Justice Department is going to use it or not, but it's this. Why was there a raid at Mar-a-Lago? What led to that raid? What led to the appointment of that special counsel? What the hell were they doing at Mar-a-Lago? What were they looking for? This was an unprecedented act in U.S. history where the Department of Justice raids a former president's home. So, look, it's great that we look in the past, and I'm glad that and it's important to understand the past. But that raid on Mar-a-Lago wasn't very long ago. That was an attempt. Whatever they were looking for, whatever scheme they had cooked up, whatever they were looking for, they didn't find, clearly. But that was to try to stop President Trump from being reelected.
Unbelievable.
That's all it was. And so there's a lot more to do with that. I'm happy that the Justice Department has this strike force. And look, I'm going to, as chairman of the President's Intelligence Board, I'm going to try to get out as much of this information and get it declassified as possible.
So you believe that they raided Mar-a-Lago because they were looking for this? They were looking for the intelligence community assessment, your report on Russia's influence campaign targeting the 2016 presidential election. That's why they raided Mar-a-Lago?
I believe it had to be one of the things that they were looking for. Because, look, that report is pretty damning if people take the time to read it. It's, 45 pages. It spent, we had a dedicated team that spent nearly 2 years down at the CIA looking through this. It was blocked from getting out. And the reason that report is so important, right, that's, let's just dumb it down, simply put. We went through every single piece of intelligence that existed. And if anything, it was clear that if Putin was going to do anything, he probably wanted Hillary Clinton to win.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. As we effort Brandon Gill again, who popped back on and then off, we've been having some unfortunate technical difficulties with the congressman. Let's rock and roll here with our friends at Advantage Gold. Ladies and gentlemen, as we see with President Trump and some major trade deals happening in the UK and in the EU, there's going to be some ups and there's going to be some downs. We've been up and down in our portfolio pretty massively over the past couple of years. It has been brutal. Don't pay attention. I just don't pay attention. You don't even look, right? Just trust your people. But I'm very glad I trusted my people at Advantage Gold. That has been the absolute best performing asset It's up 40% year over year. It's just solid and sound. They used to say sound is a pound because the pound was based on pound sterling. They stopped that, and we stopped putting our dollar backed by gold, but you can back up your portfolio with gold, ladies and gentlemen. You should head on over to Advantage Gold right now. Text Benny to 85545. That's Benny to 85545. Or go to AdvantageGold.com. AdvantageGold.com can help set you up. You can understand why gold is becoming the #1 hedge against the global currency shift, how to move your IRA or 401k into physical gold, tax and penalty free, and how to get up to $10,000 in free gold and silver with a qualifying account. Ladies and gentlemen, data and message rates apply. But send that text today. Again, text Benny to 85545. Go to AdvantageGold.com. Okay, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, do we not do... All right. Brandon Gill, I guess, is having a tough time connecting, and that's too bad. He's one of our favorite guests. I don't know, Kara, what's happening? It's been hopping off as his connection just dropped again. It looks like we may have a connection problem with the congressman. But there we go. We're doing. Remember chat roulette when like just people would join and then pop off and join and pop off. It just is what it is. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we rock and we roll. This is something that I was really disgusted about as it pertains to the viral news cycles this weekend, which is a relatively quiet weekend. But there were hate crimes that were occurring in my feed, and it tends to be this way. There is a trend line that is happening in this country of black youths doing flash mobs and going around and beating innocent civilians. Some of these targetings seem racialized. It's a critical issue that has to be addressed and stamped out by our Department of Justice, specifically the Civil Rights Division. And luckily, we have a friend there in Harmeet Dillon. She's been on the show before. She's somebody that we asked this weekend about the videos from Cincinnati. Now, you can go find them. I'm not going to play them. We made a decision not to play them because it's horrifying. There was a jazz festival in Cincinnati, and a white couple was targeted by a flash mob of young black teens, and they were beaten unconscious for absolutely no discernible reason. Not that there is any reason. Obviously, there's no offense, of course, that would require this action unless your life's in jeopardy, and that wasn't the case. According to all available reporting, this was simply a couple that was standing there, racially profiled, and then savagely attacked. Luckily, Harmeet Dillon is monitoring this situation and will be hopefully pressing civil rights hate crime charges, which is federal charges that could put the perpetrators in prison for a very long time. Let's read here first from Harmeet Dillon. Again, you can find the videos. They're horrifying. I've just described them to you. White couple is there enjoying what is a music festival concert series, and they just get attacked. And now there are multiple videos of this happening to various white people in Cincinnati. Our federal hate crime laws apply to all Americans. We at Civil Rights will monitor closely how local authorities handle this attack. Nobody in our great nation should be the victim of such a crime. Where race is the motivation, federal laws apply. This is something that, of course, this is a woke city. She's responding to the mayor of Cincinnati, who has yet to condemn these attacks. And you can see here the aftermath of these attacks, where innocent individuals are just laid out, just punched at random. You've seen, of course, videos like this across the internet, and it has it has to end. There's a way to end it. Obviously, it's the way it's always ended. They're all on video, and it makes it actually easier than ever to find the perpetrators, to charge them, and to get that reasonable doubt completely out of the mind of no matter what jury you have to bring this before. You take them, you make them famous, and we intend on doing that. You make the individuals famous, you ruin their lives, you throw them in prison. You ridicule and destroy them. You ensure that anybody who tries to engage in this, there's a consequence. We live in a sunken world. We don't live in a perfect place. There's always, there's going to be evil people. There's going to be people who engage in behaviors like this. But what you should do is the actions that were taken, for instance, by the Trump administration in Los Angeles. Man, when I was watching Los Angeles burn just a month ago, you could have seen that getting really, really bad. But then what happened? The strong arm of the law just crushed it with absolute severe retaliation. A ton of people went to jail. The guy who was throwing rocks, for instance, was just caught. This man who was like throwing rocks and attempting murder against federal agents. Caught, shamed, named. The more people who watch that there's going to be a consequence to this bad action, they're less likely to engage in the criminal activity. This is, of course, the opposite of what happened during the George Floyd riots, where the rioters spawned new rioters because they were able to see that you could just get away with this. A broken windows theory applies here. And so we're very, very glad that Harmeet Dillon is taking action on this. It's a major cultural issue. It's a critical issue to whether we can even have a functional society. It's something that we talk about as a zero trust society. There are places around the world, please put up the article, Klein, places around the world that have zero trust societies. This is what they look like. When, because of the color of your skin, if you're in the wrong area, a bunch of savage teen animals are just going to come beat you nearly to death. According to the available reports, everybody has survived here. Some people are in hospital. And it needs to be charged as a federal hate crime. That's the only way that you stop. And then, trust me, this show will take the mugshots of the individuals who are responsible, ruin their lives, hunt them down, do interviews, like hunt down the families, like ask questions, shame people, name people. Trust me, we're happy to do it. But that's how you solve these problems. They're doing the exact same thing with Russiagate. And so is how you solve those problems as well. It's a good strategy. It's a strategy that's worked out for us. We're going to keep doing it. We're disgusted by this story, but we're proud of the Trump administration and how they're handling it. Ladies and gentlemen, guest next. We're going to work on, hopefully, no technical issues on this one. Greg Stubbe from the great state of Florida is on and is ready to rock. Let's go. Congressman, welcome back to the program. We've met a couple times before. Seemed like a guy who is able to perhaps push a little more than 135 pounds. Eric Swalwell posting this humiliating L today. Just your thoughts on this, since it's the most viral video on the internet right now, for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah, I haven't seen that. I guess I don't follow Eric Swalwell on Twitter, which shouldn't shock many of my supporters. But I'll have to check it out. But I'm pretty sure, just based on what I saw that clip, that I can definitely bench press more than that. So how does something like that trend on Twitter is what I want to know. Like, yeah, everybody 135 pounds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, Democrats are constantly attempting to reactivate young males to join their party. And
that's
this
how you
is
do it,
one
by benching. That's like a warm-up set. By benching, a warm-up set is to get guys to.
My wife can. Yeah, I think could Marjorie Taylor Greene do more than this? Should we start a challenge here?
My guess would be probably. I haven't seen her bench in the gym, but my 14-year-old son can bench that. Maybe not 10 times, but he can definitely bench that, because we just did that a couple of days ago. I did buys and back this morning.
I was going to say,
we'll hit the chest in a couple of days.
You're a perfect booking for this. It's just a particularly slow news cycle, and so you're perfect booking for this. And I just wonder, in what way does an adult male? He's bragging about how he's pumping iron here. I kid you not, in the video. And so, how does an adult male post a video like this that's so humiliating? Again, my wife, who's had 4 kids and has a newborn, can bench more than this.
Well, I would like for him to put 2 more plates on And then if he did that 10 times, then I would be somewhat impressed. But my guess is he can't even do that once. But I don't know. I have seen him in the gym, but I have not seen him with 2 plates on that rack.
2 plates like right here, Congressman. Yes, this is our response to Eric Swalwell. And
now you're talking.
Yeah. I mean, it's just I'm okay with the medium. I'm not one for like workout videos, but if he's going to make it a trend, then
maybe I should get my son to videotape chest and tricep day in a couple of days.
You absolutely should. You should respond. Yeah.
And then we'll tag him, and that will make news. Let's see if we can get as many Twitter followers that he got, and we'll trend. We'll see. Let's do that.
We're happy for we're happy for this workshopping with you, Congressman. Anytime,
I like it. Yeah,
anytime. Yeah. This would be and we're gonna hit up Marjorie Taylor Greene. If you and Marjorie Taylor Greene dunked, it would be a great news cycle. All right, moving on. You're on the Intelligence Committee. There was quite a bit of news this weekend. Some of it emanating from a Dan Bongino tweet that was cryptic, saying that
very cryptic.
What he's looking at is the worst thing he's ever seen in his life. It shook him to his core. Dan Bongino is not a weak man, nor is he somebody who's
probably can bench more than 135.
Yeah, that's right. Well, since you're on the Intel Committee, perhaps you have some insight into what was Dan talking about here.
My guess is the underlying intelligence of all this Russia collusion hoax is they dig into all of this and get the facts. We haven't been briefed specifically on that, but if you kind of read between the T lines, like Ratcliffe was on Maria a couple of days ago and alluded to once this intelligence comes out. So my guess is the depth of the depravity and the corruption of the Clinton, Obama, Russiagate scandal as they peel the onion back and start to analyze the lies that were perpetrated at the highest levels of our government. Now, think about this for a second. These are facts that are well known. The Hillary Clinton campaign paid for the Steele dossier. That Steele dossier, so this is 100% paid for by a campaign of your political opponent. That dossier was the basis of this intelligence report that was completely fabricated, and they tried to concoct the fact that the Trump campaign colluded and conspired with Russia to affect the outcome of the election. That was the mantra that the mainstream media sold to us for 2 years, all based on a lie, all perpetuated by a lie. So you have Obama, Clinton, Clapper, Comey all conspiring against the American people, I believe treasonously conspiring to concoct a lie based on intelligence that they promulgated that completely perpetuated a lie to the American people that the Trump campaign colluded and conspired with Russia. If you do a Democratic poll right now, and I've seen one recently, it's like 60% of Democrats still believe that Trump colluded and conspired with Russia in the last election in 2016. So 2 elections ago. They still believe that because for 2 years, we were fed this lie. I sat through these hearings as a member of the Judiciary Committee in the minority. Remember, Pelosi was the speaker at this time. Remember the Mueller report and Mueller coming before the Judiciary Committee? All of that perpetuated on a lie that was conspired between the highest levels of our government and the intelligence community that Trump colluded and conspired with the Russians. So I imagine Bongino is starting to see reports and info as they're digging in on this, as they're investigating this, because, oh, by the way, Tulsi Gabbard did a referral to the DOJ. So now FBI is investigating that referral for possible criminal charges as it relates to all this. So I don't know specifically what he was referring to, but I would imagine it's all of this surrounding all this finally years later. I mean, we're talking, 10 years ago that all of this happened? 10 years ago, all of this happened. Finally, the information is becoming before the American people. And finally, I hope and I pray that justice is going to be served, because the American people are sick and tired of deep state Democrats and deep state actors in our government doing this type of activity and nothing happens. Surveilling on their political opponents, using the FISA court, a secret court, to surveil on the Trump campaign. Nothing happens to those people. Yeah, some of them have been fired. FBI has done a good job of firing some of these people, but I can tell you there are still analysts that were involved in this that still work for the CIA, that are still part of the deep state, that all these people have to be flushed out. And if they lied, if they used their position to lie to the American people and lie to other officials, they should be held accountable for that.
Everybody keeps saying held accountable. And I suppose if you go through and you look at the breadcrumb trail, everything from John Ratcliffe suggesting that Hillary Clinton could be caught up in this net, And if you look at Dan Bongino's tweet, and then if you look at sort of what Trump's been posting on Truth Social, he's really been name dropping the Clintons and priming that pump quite a bit. And then you establish sort of what the Nunes report really says here, which is that the Hillary campaign worked with Russian spies to write the Steele dossier.
Correct.
You know, they paid
and they
Russians.
paid them to. They paid them. Yeah.
Yeah.
They paid them to do that.
Like, so Bongino posted just one. Nobody paid attention to it. Only our show, but he posted just one link. That was a link back to a article about how everything that is in this intelligence assessment, everything was a lie. That it was all the opposite. And in fact, the Russians wanted Hillary because she was a known asset. I mean, she's somebody that they could probably work with. They understand her. They didn't actually want Trump. That was the opposite of
and they had dirt on her too, and that was in the report that was recently released and made public. The Russians had dirt on her politically. So Putin actually wanted her to be president because he was going to then leverage her with all of the information that they had about her health and all these other issues to leverage her if she had become president and to get something out of her. So the Russians actually wanted Clinton, not Putin or not Trump, to be president. So it's just fascinating as you peel this onion back and get this information. I know that they're fervently working at the DOJ, but the American people for years have seen the corruption at the highest levels, and there has to be accountability. So I surely hope, and I know that they're working hard on that. I'm sure Pam Bondi and the DOJ is doing what they need to do. FBI is investigating it and getting all their information and ducks in a row before they possibly file charges. But all of these people lied to Congress too. But unfortunately, the statute of limitations has told for that. But there's not a statute of limitations on conspiracy. And clearly, all of these individuals were conspiring with a criminal intent to lie to the American people. The mainstream media perpetrates a lie. And to this day, you still have people in our country that believe that Trump colluded and conspired with Russia, when in fact, it was Hillary Clinton that colluded and conspired with Russian assets and paid them for this dossier to then take that and have the intelligence community lie about what was in it. This is just fascinating.
So what you've described there, Congressman, obviously has been proven beyond a shadow of a doubt in all of these releases. Perhaps you already knew about it since you're on the Intel Committee, and you were most likely part. I don't actually know. Were you part of the House Select Committee on Intelligence that wrote the report?
No, I just got on this cycle, so I've only been on the committee since January.
Got it. Because that seems to be critical here. Many people assessing that perhaps that is the report that they tried to get in the Mar-a-Lago raid. Perhaps that was the missing documentation that they wanted to take back during the Trump Mar-a-Lago raid.
Yeah,
any thoughts on that? Do you have any insight on that?
That's the piece of this too. Keep perpetuating this. You've got these different actors who were still in the different apparatuses of our federal government and the deep state now working against President Trump in the last election. The raid at Mar-a-Lago, what were they after? What information were they trying to get? It's just fascinating how deep this goes. And I hope they expose it. I hope these people go to jail, and they have to, or the American people are never going to have trust and faith in the FBI, the intelligence community, the DNI, all of these different apparatuses, because we only get what they tell us. The intelligence committee can't go to the CIA. I mean, we could go and demand information, but that doesn't mean they have to give it to us. So we only get information that's provided. Now, we have oversight authority if we want to subpoena these people and delve into different issues, but they can easily keep Congress in the dark, even the intelligence community, of what's really going on, because they just don't give them the information. So I hope Bongino and the FBI and all these people root out the corruption at the highest levels, and everybody should be held criminally accountable for it.
Nothing that you've said is even controversial, or all of it is incontrovertible.
And it's all fact. It's all been packed up by facts.
Your detail about the Steele dossier, it should be a far bigger scandal on the mind of the American people, I think, that it is. But what you've described there is what Stephen Miller calls a seditious conspiracy. Tulsi Gabbard has used the word traitorous. And traitorous, by definition, is working with a foreign power in order to usurp power and usurp the will of the American people. And that definitionally is what Hillary Clinton did. You just described it. Do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I use the word treason. I mean, that's a crime you can charge under the Constitution. I don't think it's been charged since the days of, after the Revolutionary War and all of that kind of thing, but it's certainly a charge that you could bring under the Constitution. Think about the timeline. Trump is coming into office. He just won. and you have these people undermining the current president, the incoming president of the United States. Flynn had to deal with all of the different corruption as it relates to this. This is that timeline of all of this going on. So absolutely, you are undermining your country, the president, your duty under the Constitution. So I sure hope that there's significant ramifications of this, and I hope the American people get to see all of it. Yes. I hope Tulsi, Ratcliffe, Congress doesn't have the ability to declassify, but the president and Ratcliffe and Tulsi do. So I hope that once they do the investigation, once they've dotted their I's and crossed their T's, they release all this information so the American people can truly see. Now, the mainstream media is not going to talk about it, but at least the American people can see for themselves what was really going on during this time.
Congressman, given the fact that you probably are privy to more information than is publicly available, and you are on the Intel Committee, who would you suggest be gone after the most severely for these crimes? Do you think that it's going to be Comey and Brennan and Clapper? Do you believe that Barack Obama will have presidential immunity?
Yeah, Obama's going to hide behind that. But I think it's, Comey, Clapper, the individuals that conspired, whether Clinton was implicated in that or not. I assume she was, just by virtue of the fact that they paid for the dossier. The campaign then fed that to Comey and Clapper and the intelligence community, and then they used that as a basis not only to lie to the American people, but then to get warrants on Trump officials, Trump individuals, and spy on American citizens without a real warrant, because they used the FISA court to do it so they could hide their actions of what they were doing. So I would just, your top of the spear there is Comey and Clapper, because they were the head of the FBI and the agencies at that time. So yeah, if you could go after, if there are facts to support, which I would assume based on all of the information we have at this point, to support a charge there, absolutely the DOJ needs to charge them.
So this is a real question that I have, and the final question on this topic, Congressman, is how do you get a conviction in a DC jury? It's going to be, of course, the opposite effect of what happened for J6ers, right? When no matter what, you were going to get a guaranteed conviction in a Washington, D.C. jury pool selection that is a city that voted 2% for Donald Trump. How are you, and most of the people are going to be working for these agencies that are trying to be prosecuted. How would you creatively get the hell out of DC so that you could properly charge these crimes?
Yeah, that's a great point. And some of this now, the Mar-a-Lago raid and that involvement, if some of these people were involved in that somehow, that happened in Florida. So Florida would have jurisdiction, so you could get a Florida jury for those crimes. But you bring up an excellent point. DC is the deep state, and you've got, it's like 85%, 90% registered Democrat there. You are not, these people are obviously not going to get a fair trial, just like the J6ers did not get a fair trial in DC. So they're going to have to think about the venue issues. They're going to have to think about conflict issues. They're going to have to obviously try to work through that from a legal basis and the best venues to bring those different crimes. But you obviously also have to charge them in the jurisdictions where the crime was committed. But if it was a conspiracy, wherever they were during that period of time, you could bring those crimes and they would have jurisdiction.
It kind of puts in stark relief why President Obama just moved a block away from the White House. You know, you just moved to Colorado, right? And you never have to.
Downtown New York City.
Yeah, that's right.
San Francisco.
First president who never left, you know? Yeah. It's very interesting. Okay, so President Trump was just live at a press conference, and we covered the tail end of it. He was asked, obviously peppered with all these questions about Epstein, and I don't like the media turning Epstein into the new Russiagate. I think that's what's actually happening. But the best way to get out from under that rock is obviously full disclosures. Would you and your committee be interested in talking with Ghislaine Maxwell? Where's your stance on how the government should address this issue?
Well, that's the Intelligence Committee. If a committee talks to her, it should be oversight of judiciary, because it's of a criminal nature and they have jurisdiction over those issues. I think all of this information should be made public as long as they're protecting the victims. Even if those victims are not underage now, but they're adults, they still have rights to be protected as a victim. They probably don't want a big X and a marker on them as being involved in all of this for a variety of reasons, for safety reasons, for fear of retribution, all of these different things. So you have to protect the victims' rights as much as possible. But I would vote to release, if we ever get to vote on this, I would vote to release whatever we can. Congress shouldn't be standing in the way of that. I assume that the DOJ is fervently working on whatever they're trying to release. You've got the DOJ that just recently met with Maxwell. And some article I read said there's 100 different people that she is implicated. So I hope that the facts come before the American people. Obviously, if it's being investigated, obviously it's confidential during that period of time. But the American people want answers. Republicans want answers. I don't think we should not be working in Washington because we're afraid of the Epstein files coming out. Obviously, if they had stuff against President Trump, that would come out a long time ago. So I'm not really concerned about it from that aspect. And the mainstream media is obviously trying to hang this around his neck, that there's some huge conspiracy with him as it relates to Epstein. And they're just trying to distract from all this Russiagate information. These guys got Pulitzers. They got prizes for the Russiagate hoax. When are they going to give that back? It's just fascinating how the mainstream media operates.
A follow-up that I've been dying to ask because I've been wanting to have the right member of Congress on to ask it. You were just talking about subpoenaing the CIA, and they don't have to give you the truth, but so many intelligent people have been on this program talking about this and saying, if there was going to be a clandestine agency that was working closely with Epstein, it would be the CIA. That's why you would have an island in international waters. There's an obvious opportunity for a clandestine-facing agency, and why so many world leaders were ensnared in so much of this op. Would you be down with subpoenaing the CIA to see what their Epstein files are?
Yeah, I mean, we certainly can request that as a member of the committee. The chairman would have to do that, but I would certainly support getting the information. Certainly, we represent the American people, and we're on the Intelligence Committee and have the opportunity to request that. I would assume that the CIA is working with the FBI on all of this. I don't know that to be a fact or not, but that is certainly something that we could request.
Yeah, it's like something, it just seems like there's a missing piece there, and everybody's sort of worked on divulging what they know about Epstein. But the more you go back into the background, the more you look into the op, the more it seems like if it was an intel op, and so many smart people smarter than me saying it was, then that would be the agency, and they've been very quiet on it. And so, yeah, be interesting to know, I suppose.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah. Okay, Congressman, final question for you on the status of something big going on in Florida that has missed a lot of the news cycle, but it's the Ryan Routh trial. Ryan Routh is representing himself. So such a strange thing that happened with President Trump's assassination attempt here in Florida. Arguably, maybe even a scarier one than in Butler, given the fact that there were less agents there. It was less of a public-facing event. It was in private. This guy was clearly premeditated. He was trying to work with the Ukrainian military to get armaments or assassins across our border. He was clearly connected in very creepy ways to human smugglers, and just so much more about Ryan Routh that we don't know. This trial's going on in Florida. This has been a major frustration. Have you seen anything on either Ryan Routh or Matthew Thomas Crooks that could illuminate for us what these ops actually were against the president's life?
Yeah, and you're right. There's, of course, mainstream media is not going to talk about the fact that there were 2 assassination attempts on President Trump's life, and we know zero about the background of either one of these individuals, zero about their motive, especially the Butler shooting suspect, because he's not here anymore. Of course, nobody else is talking. FBI is not talking. A huge failure by Secret Service that a guy gets on a roof and nobody sees him, and he isn't taken out before he gets a shot off and kills individuals at the rally and almost kills our president. Yeah, those are things that I would love to get more information on. I don't know if for some reason it's classified, but it's certainly things that we could request. I would imagine the Judiciary Committee or the Oversight Committee has made requests as it relates to that, because it's obviously more criminal in nature. But you're right. It's frustrating when you have these huge events and then you know nothing about the background of these individuals, the information about these individuals. Maybe I'll query that and see if we can get some answers.
That'd be great. I mean, this is the DOJ's own filings saying don't worry, he's just like, because he was traveling to Ukraine, nobody knows how or why, but since he was in Ukraine so often, he was just working with the Ukrainian military to get an RPG to shoot down Trump's plane. This is in black and white. This is the DOJ's own filing, which is insane. Like, what an insane timeline that we're living in. And everyone just seems to brush it by, but not this program. So
yeah, I don't know how you would get that into the country without Border Patrol seeing that, but it's fascinating times that we live in.
It was the Biden era, so I guess that.
Oh well, that's true. Yeah, they weren't looking at the southern border then.
Thank you, Congressman, for being with us. Everybody follow Greg Steube.
All right, I got to do that bench press. I'll have to post that this week.
Oh, that would be if we were the inspiration for that, it'd be great. If more members of Congress, I think it'd be good for young men in the country to see which party is actually jacked. Ladies and gentlemen, follow Congressman Greg Steube right here. 117,000 Americans already do. Fight with the people who are fighting for us. Thank you, Congressman.
Good to see you, Benny.
Ladies and gentlemen, again, we apologize for the technical errors with Brandon Gill. His team has sent along a message apologizing. Their entire internet crashed. We actually had some internet problems. We had the hottest day in the history of Tampa, Florida, which is where we are broadcasting from and have been broadcasting from for a few years since fleeing Washington, D.C. and those tyrannical communists. We had a very hot day here, and it's caused some jittery internet outages. So we understand that. We dig it, and we will rebook Brandon Gill. Now is probably the right time to announce to you that Tulsi Gabbard will be joining our program. We are working on getting that locked in this week. She is totally unavailable today, but we are going to do a full special with Tulsi Gabbard, the Director of National Intelligence, and she'll be on to answer these questions. We will be asking some of your questions. We'll put up a cue card on social media when that date and time is booked. We're very excited to be working with Tulsi's office to bring you probably the busiest woman in America right now, but Tulsi is going to stop in and lock in with this audience, and we're thankful for you, and we're thankful for her. Ladies and gentlemen, you should lock in with your grand American future. There are good things happening, massive trade deals being signed. We're going to talk about that in just a second here. But first, you can't have a great American future without being out of debt. If you have that crippling debt millstone around your neck, you are just going to drown. And they're designed, by the way, to have the type of fees and the type of interest rates, some of them 25, 35%, that cripple you forever. You have to get up and out. And my friends at American Financing can help you do just that. Most Americans are putting the insane levels of expenses on credit cards. Doesn't seem to be a way out. American Financing can show you how to use your home's equity in order to pay off your debt. You can call American Financing today before you get to the point where you can't make the payments, and their salary-based mortgage consultants will help you out. Their customers are saving on average of $800 a month. It's like a $10,000 raise. It's fast, it's simple, and it can save your entire budget. Call now before it's too late. 888-528-1219. That's 888-528-1219 for AmericanFinancing.net/Benny is the URL that you can go to if you wish to find more information on that. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Trump strikes biggest deal ever with the European Union. Europeans will buy $750 million in United States energy. I assume that would be liquefied natural gas. And invest $600 billion after meeting with President Trump. And Americans will pay zero tariffs. It's amazing. So they're paying a tariff to operate in an American economy, and Americans are paying zero to operate in their economy. Just fantastic. Just an excellent deal by President Trump. Laying out the deal here this past weekend, and also we have some breaking news from J.D. Vance that's getting clipped and loaded right now. It's happening right now. J.D. Vance on the Cincinnati attack and also on Epstein. So get ready. That is some breaking news that we'll get to in just a moment. But here we go, ladies and gentlemen. President Trump laying out the excellent deal with Ursula von der Leyen, who's ahead of the EU. Let's go.
So we're going to do the following. The European Union is going to agree to purchase from the United States $750 billion worth of energy. $750 billion worth of energy. They are going to agree to invest into the United States $600 billion more than they're investing already. So they're investing a large amount of money. You know what that amount of money is. It's very substantial, but they're going to invest an additional $600 billion. They're agreeing to open up their countries to trade at zero tariff. So that's a very big factor. Opening up their countries, all of the countries will be opened up to trade with the United States at zero tariff. And they're agreeing to purchase a vast amount of military equipment. We don't know what that number is, but it's the good news is we make the best military equipment in the world, so sort of you have to do that. I mean, until somebody tops us, which is not going to happen. We're way ahead of every other country in terms of the quality of the military equipment. You saw that recently in Iran, and you see that, unfortunately, you see that often for all the wrong reasons, right? So those things are $750 billion, $600 billion, opening up the country. We are agreeing that the tariff straight across for automobiles and everything else will be a straight across tariff of 15%. So we have a tariff of 15%. We have the opening up of all of the European countries, which I think I could say were essentially closed. I mean, you weren't exactly taking our autos, you weren't exactly taking our agriculture, and then you would have smaller things, but for the most part it was closed. And now it's open. It's open for our companies to go in and do a good job with it. I think you'll like them. I think you'll like it. And we will, very importantly, they'll be investing a lot of money, but the military is a big number, but that's one number we're not determining. It's going to be whatever it is, but they're going to be purchasing hundreds of billions of dollars worth of military equipment. They're very important. They're going to purchase $750 billion worth of energy. So that's going to be great. And $600 billion worth of investments into the United States over and above what they have. So, and I think that basically concludes the deal. I mean, those are the main factors. I don't think there are too many other factors.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is a monster deal. Now, obviously, these trade deals, there are some people that watch them very, very closely, but they go over a lot of individuals' heads. But let me tell you, like negotiating a 15% tariff on everything from the EU and a 0% tariff for any American product going in the European Union, along with nearly $1 trillion in purchases of American energy, is a incredible deal. President Trump is just steamrolling every country on earth. There's a whinging Axios article actually on this, like crying about how successful Donald Trump is in this tariff war. It's great. And what's also great is the administration. There it is. Yeah. In the Trump-dominated global economy, the U.S. gets plenty, but gives nothing in return. Look at these a-holes. What? Yes, exactly. Like, thank you. Why are you not cheering for this? They're like, when we tell you that they're anti-American, they actually hate this country. We mean it. And they hate the country. Yes, the U.S. gets everything and everyone else gets nothing. And that's great for us. That's called America First. Thank you. It's nice to see the fight back on this. J.D. Vance is somebody who has said that we should release the entire Epstein files. He said this on Theo Vaughn's show. Theo Vaughn has publicly criticized J.D. Vance about this. It's something that we don't want to see tear at the fabric of MAGA. J.D. Vance is out just moments ago with a comment to a reporter about Epstein that rings like a bell. Pretty savage. Here we go.
I got to make an observation that there's an interesting thing about this case that the American media seems to totally ignore. For 4 years, under Joe Biden's Department of Justice, the media didn't give a damn about the Epstein files or about the Epstein case. For literally 20 years, the story about this scumbag, and he is a scumbag pedophile, Jeffrey Epstein, he's dead now, but for 20 years, You had Obama and George W. Bush's Department of Justice go easy on this guy. They didn't fully investigate the case. They didn't show any curiosity about the case. And now Donald J. Trump is asking his Department of Justice to show full transparency. And somehow that's a criticism of Donald J. Trump and not Barack Obama and George W. Bush. If you want to criticize the people who aren't showing full transparency, you ought to go.
Is that the end of the clip, guys? It just ends? We can't cut off the vice president like that. All right, whatever. It's late, and, well, it looks like we'll have to do a recording on that and get the full clip. But that is, at the very least, J.D. Vance punching back very aggressively on the Epstein issue, saying this is an issue of George W. Bush and Barack Obama. It's not an issue of Donald Trump. We're the only ones trying to find the truth. J.D. Vance also on the Cincinnati attack. Of course, J.D. Vance is from Ohio. He represented Ohio in the United States Senate. And he says that these thugs need to be put in prison for a very long time. As we showed you, they punched a woman, a white woman, that, according to all available evidence, was clearly a racial targeting. And they punched a woman out cold, knocked her out cold in the street, along with other white individuals who were attending a music festival. And that's what happened. J.D. Vance not holding back here. Let's go.
There was a group of people who attacked a couple folks on the street in Cincinnati. Senator Bernie Moreno, some others have spoken out about it, have been critical of it.
Yes. So what I saw, and I haven't seen the full context, but what I saw is a mob of lawless thugs beating up on an innocent person, and it's disgusting. And I hope every single one of those people who engage in violence is prosecuted to the full extent of the law. And they will be. They will be so long as law enforcement in the state of Ohio takes their job seriously. I know Dave Yost cares a lot about these things. But yeah, I actually, you're right. Bernie did send me a clip of this, and we talked a little bit about it. I don't know the full context. I don't know how the fight started. But the one part that I saw that was really gruesome is you had a grown man who sucker punched a middle-aged woman. And where I come from, at least, when you have a grown man who sucker punches a middle-aged woman, that person ought to go to jail for a very long time. And frankly, he's lucky there weren't some better people around, because they would have handled it themselves. But if they're not going to handle it, the cops in Cincinnati, the law enforcement, you've got to prosecute people. We've had way too much lawlessness on the streets of great American cities. How many of you all have wanted to go to downtown Akron or downtown Canton or downtown Columbus for a meal, but you're worried because the local authorities in these big cities have allowed lawlessness to run wild? We have got to make great American cities safe again for families and children. If you want to take your wife or your children out for a meal, you shouldn't be worried about street violence. And the only way to destroy that street violence is to take the thugs who engage in that violence and throw their asses in prison.
I'm going to go a step further here. And good. That's an excellent response by J.D. Vance on this issue. We're going to go hard on this issue today. Nobody wants to cover it, so we're going to make it a national issue ourselves, this audience. And we thank you for being part of it. This is the power that we have in order to force the issue and in order to make it a national issue. This is something that is clearly a racist targeting of people because of their skin color. It is illegal. It is a federal crime. They also attacked a woman, middle-aged woman, and knocked her out cold in the middle of the street. Could have killed her. It looked like she had died if you watch the clip. Again, it's almost, we've made the decision that it's too gruesome to actually play live here on the program, but you can see here the images of the aftermath of these brutal beatings. One final thing that I would add to all of this is, yes, the perpetrators deserve their sentences and deserve the most vicious and brutal punishment that our justice system can deliver for these crimes, as a warning to anybody else who wishes to engage like this. Again, this is simply the aftermath of the George Floyd riots, where in certain areas of the country, you feel like criminals and thugs feel like they can just roam with absolute impunity and commit these violent acts. They're truly demons and they're animals. But also, what I find just repulsive, and I don't really know how to couch it, is in these videos, there are so many bystanders that are just filming and hooting and hollering and cheering them on. And I feel like they should be charged too. Yeah, at the very least, you're complicit in the crimes when you're standing there posting for World Star. At the very least, you're encouraging of the crimes. There's an entire classification of a criminal element that simply allows the crimes to occur and doesn't do anything. You know, you're seen as an accomplice if you are encouraging the crimes to happen and you're doing nothing and you're just standing there filming with your phone as white people are beaten virtually to death, right? Unconscious, near death. Can you, like, please pluck the phones and pluck the lives from every person around who is on camera hollering for this to happen and charge them as well. Wrap it all up inside of a civil rights case brought by the feds that says you're not allowed to act like animals in our nation. And we're going to destroy you. We're going to name every one of you. We're going to destroy your lives. We're going to come after you, your families. And we're going to ensure that there's total and complete devastation because we can't live in a zero trust society. There's examples of zero trust societies all around the globe. They're the worst places to live in. There shouldn't be something like a no-go zone in this country. It's happening all over Europe. Walk anywhere in Paris or London. Most of the cities are no-go zones because of a zero trust, animalistic society, tribalized entirely, where there's different sets of laws. You just assume that you're going to get stabbed in one of these places in Brussels or London or Paris. And there's story after story after story of this happening. There's a way to stop that from happening in America. I guess, obviously, we've, careened violently in that direction when you let 30 million criminal aliens come here and bring their own third world culture. But as we saw in Los Angeles, there's a way to put this down. The way to put it down is vicious restoration of law and order. So you grab the people who are responsible, you destroy them, you destroy their families, you ensnare every person who was filming or cheering it on, you destroy them, and you metaphorically put them out on a pike and say, this is something, if you behave like this, then this will be what happens to you also. Now, Ohio's a red state. They should bring state charges. Cincinnati's obviously a little like a blue city, a little blue speck there, but it's a red state. Vivek Ramaswamy, I think, is going to probably win like 99 counties or however, I think it's 88 counties in Ohio. I'd be interested to hear Vivek's take on this. So you should bring local charges, state charges, and federal charges, lock these individuals up forever, right? And like their lives should be in a prison cell until they can no longer walk, and make examples. This is how you live. This is how you restore equal justice and how you restore some trust in society. But right now, the atrocious videos on social media, this is what a zero trust society looks like. It's the worst elements of living inside of post-apartheid South Africa. And it's like living as a farmer in South Africa, right? As we have extensively covered on this program, where racialized killings are the norm. And we're starting to see a lot of that popping up in our feed. It's demonic and it's totally evil. We speak out against it. And ladies and gentlemen, it's our obligation actually to you to ensure that we use the power of this audience to fight it, to cover it. So that's what we will do. I'm ashamed that we didn't cover it this weekend. I didn't see it for what it was until a little later last night because we were focused on other things this weekend. But we'll spend our day covering it, ladies and gentlemen. The energy to carry on? Well, for us, it comes from Blackout Coffee. Blackout Coffee gives us that sweet, and I need more. I need actually some more coffee today. Gives us that sweet boost of caffeine that gets us up. And in the gym, actually, I go and I get a workout in every single morning. We have a teeny little garage. We don't have really a big house. We don't have even a yard, but we have a garage, and not really a car guy. And so I did we did the garage gym, right? We took our one stall garage and we turned it into a gym. I built that rack myself, actually. And the first thing in the morning, Blackout Coffee. The next thing in the morning, a workout. And that coffee helps power my day. Blackout Coffee is available to you, ladies and gentlemen, if you believe in hard work and American values. Coffee that actually tastes good, tastes like coffee. Go to blackoutcoffee.com/Benny. Use the code Benny for 20% off your first order. Support the American dream. Drink Blackout. blackoutcoffee.com/Benny. Stop settling and start drinking real coffee. I drink my coffee black. I drink my coffee just like straight hot out of the pot. So it has to be good coffee, ladies and gentlemen, right there. Okay. Why don't we end on a happy note, a positive note? Michigan, stand up and be proud. Armed citizen subdues Michigan Walmart mass stabber. There's somebody who stabbed 11 people at Walmart. And a man who, have we confirmed this yet? ALX, is he a Marine? I'm not sure if he's a Marine. There's some rumors going around that he was a Marine. His name is Derek Perry. And Derek Perry, DP, there's like Daniel Penny? Daniel Penny? Derek Perry? I don't know, man. Maybe it's just the thing. I don't know. But this is Derek Perry. He's the Daniel Penny of Michigan. He saw something horrible going on. Daniel Penny obviously saw this some horrific criminal on the subway and took matters into his own hands and said, "You're not allowed to do that to my people." This is exactly what Derek Perry did. He's put an end to the mass stabbing in a Traverse City, Michigan Walmart. There are demons in this world. People go absolutely insane, and that's exactly what happened here. We have the photo, obviously. Get the photo, please, of him subduing the attacker. Derek Perry is somebody who lawfully was carrying a firearm at the time. I don't know what model. He was a so Derek Perry was a former Marine, and he was able to stop and subdue this man who had already stabbed 11, and so was clearly on his way to stabbing more. He's an absolute hero. And, well, I wouldn't hold, listen, I'm not a fan of holding the firearm sideways. Shouldn't do that. All right. I'm not doing my due diligence you're going to have a much better shot if you hold it straight up and down as it is intended. But nonetheless, here's Derek Perry brandishing, correctly wielding his firearm and putting it in the face of a sociopath, somebody who's clearly lost his mind. And that's publicly available on his social media and on his publishing. He writes books. And it's just crazy. He's just a crazy nut, right? He loses focus with reality and went on a stabbing spree. And it's horrible. And the reason why these stabbing sprees don't end the way that they end in Europe, often in Europe, they end with fatalities and casualties and nobody's there to stop anything. And not even the police are armed in Europe. The reason they don't end that way is because Americans are armed. There are like 100 million privately owned firearms in this country. And there are good men and good women who are carrying them. And they are using them in order to keep our society safe and civilized to our best attempts at doing so. And unfortunately, and this is the way it's always been, you must match evil with equal and opposite force, greater force, actually. But evil will run over you if you have no way to defend yourself. And so we salute Derek Perry here, who saved most likely countless other people. If you've already stabbed 11 people, you're going to go stab a lot more. And you know, the people who are in Walmart, obviously, there's plenty of little old grannies, plenty of little children. And so this man is a hero. And we're thankful. We're thankful for him, all right? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we're thankful for you. Our verse of the day proves it. We always give you a verse of the day to head into our Mondays locked and loaded and ready to serve. Here we go. 2 Timothy 2:3. You, therefore, must endure hardship as a good soldier of Christ. Yeah. So many verses in the Bible, it's like weird. You know, people are like, I became a Christian. Shouldn't my life be great now? Doesn't God love me? Like, listen, man, there are verses in the Bible that guarantee actually hard lives for Christians. We live in a sunken world. This is a prerequisite, in fact, for living a good life, is that you are going to have trials and tribulations. You're going to have people that gut check you, body check you, and break your jaw. And the trick to all of it is staying on the path, staying on the course. Steady as she goes. Stoicism. Keep moving forward. Read your Bible, get down on your knees and pray, get your workout in, eat your vitamins, as Hulk Hogan would say, drink your coffee, and it's another day. And that's how you carry forward. And there's so much truth in that. Locking in with your Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, well, that's a guaranteed, immovable object, and that is the truth that will keep you going. It certainly is for us. Ladies and gentlemen, it's your boy Benny. It's an honor to always do this show with you, even with some technical difficulties. And remember, no matter what, in the end, we win. See ya.
Yeah. It's the Benny Show, where the truth gon' be. Faith and freedom on your TV screen. Stand up strong, battle through the night. The Benny Show's here, bringing liberty to life. From the speeches to debates, Benny sharp like a blade. Cutting through the lies, watch the truth cascade. With the warrior's heart, this man never fades. You know it's prime time when Benny invades. From saving the nation to stories untold, the Benny Show's a storm, see the truth unfold. Stay in the loop, let freedom take hold. Salting all the libs, soul never sold. It's the Benny Show, where the truth gon' be. Faith and freedom on your TV screen. Stand up strong, battle through the night. The Benny Show's here, bringing liberty to light. Liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Liberty to light. Bringing liberty to life. From the speeches to debates, Benny sharp like a blade. Cutting through the lies, watch the truth cascade. With the warrior's heart, this man never fades. You know it's prime time when Benny invades. From saving the nation to stories untold, the Benny Show's a storm, see the truth unfold. Stay in the loop, let freedom take hold. Salting all the libs, soul never sold. It's the Benny Show, where the truth gon' be. Faith and freedom on your TV screen. Stand up strong, battle through the night. The Benny Show's here, bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light.